Hey guys, a lot of you have been wondering how you can use a guitar controller on Fortnite Festival. It's easier than you may think, for PC at least. I can't speak for any of the consoles because I don't play on consoles, I play on PC. So this is a PC-only tutorial. However, there may still be ways that you can play with a real guitar controller on your console. I just don't know it. That'll be a different tutorial for that. This will be pretty all-encompassing. If you have a way to connect an old legacy guitar controller to your PC, this should be able to work for you. I'll go over 4 different examples of guitar controllers: an Arduino guitar, a Raphnet guitar, a PS3, and an Xbox 360 guitar in this video. So let's just get right into it. There's a couple things you might want to change in the settings before you plug in a guitar and bind keys to it. These will make it so that your guitar isn't fighting with your mouse and keyboard as like the primary input device. If you don't do this, it'll be very hard to navigate these menus. Trust me, you're going to want to do this. On the main menu, you're going to want to go to your settings, and then go over to the mouse and keyboard settings, then turn on ignore controller input, and then turn on lock input method as mouse. Click apply, and now when we plug in our controller, it won't recognize any errant inputs from tilt sensors or whammy bars or whatever. So now let's go ahead and bind the keys of our guitar to work in the game. Click the link down in the description below to go to JoyToKey.net, and then scroll down to see download the latest version, and then click download JoyToKey installer from JoyToKey.net. It downloads up here, and then once it's done, you go ahead and open that file. It'll ask for administrator permissions, give them that, and then go through and accept the agreement. Go through the installer. This is the default location to install it. You can put it wherever you want. I want a desktop shortcut, so I'm going to put it there, and that would install. And just like that, it's done, and we can launch it just by keeping that checkbox checked. So now with JoyToKey open, I'm going to show you how to bind your guitar controller buttons to buttons on your keyboard to use within Fortnite Festival. Connect your guitar to your PC, and then if you don't see any of these joysticks up here highlighted with a color, go to Options, and then go to Number of Joysticks to Configure, and change this up to maybe 8 or so. This will add more joysticks up on top, and if any of these are highlighted, that's the one you should be configuring. So for me, joystick 2 is the one that's highlighted right now with my guitar that I have plugged in. Right now I have an Xbox 360 Explorer plugged in, and this should work for any Xbox 360 guitar, whether it's wired or wireless, if you have a wireless adapter for it to connect to. So I'm going to press my fret buttons. Those are the ones we really want to bind the most. So when I press green, button 1 lights up, so I'm going to press button 1, edit button assignment, and make that D, because that is the lane 1 key binding within Fortnite Festival. You can change those within the game, but these are the defaults. So I'm just going to go through all the buttons. Red is button 2, and that is F within the game. Yellow is button 4, and that is J. Blue is button 3, that's K. And then orange is button 5, and that's L. Now the only other thing we need to bind is our overdrive activation key, which I want to put as select, which is button 7 for me. So I'm going to go in there and press space to bind that one too. And that's all the major key bindings for a guitar. However, there's a few other things you may want to bind to actions on your guitar, such as your emote button, or perhaps the ready up button so you can start the song, or what I want to do, which is the escape button to bring up your settings and all that other stuff. So I want to put that on my start button, which is button 8, and I'll bind that to escape, so then I can pause the game and access my settings easily just by pressing start, much like I would with a normal Guitar Hero game. So these are the ones that I would recommend you do right away. If you wanted to bind those other ones, feel free. Just choose whatever action on your guitar you want, maybe up and down strum since they aren't used by the game. In fact, I'm going to put my down strum as my emote key. So I'm going to change that to B, which is the default emote button. If you change that, just change it to whatever you have it bound as in-game. But that for this guitar, this is good. I'll call it good here for an Xbox 360 guitar, and I'm going to move on to a Raphnet guitar. Now I have my Raphnet guitar plugged in, and you can see joystick 4 is the one that's highlighted here. And when I press buttons, sure enough, those are what's being picked up. So I'm going to go through all my fret buttons. Once again, my green button is button 5 on this one, different from the Explorer. I'm going to bind that to D. My red button is button 2. I'm going to bind that to F. My yellow button is button 6. That's going to be J. My blue is button 1. That's K. And then my orange is button 9. And that is L. And then for my overdrive activation, I want to use select, which is button 3. I'll bind that to space. And then I want to bind my start button to be the pause menu, or escape. So I'm going to bind button 4 to escape. And then I want to emote when I downstrum, and that's button 14. So I'm going to make that B. And that's it for our Raphnet. So now I have a PS3 GH5 guitar plugged in, and you may see that there's no joysticks up here that are lit up, and that's because there's no active input being recognized by the computer. So I'm going to press some buttons, and you can see that joystick 4 is actually the one that this PS3 guitar is being recognized as, which is unfortunate for me because it interferes with the Raphnet guitar I just set up for it, but I'll still go through the configuration here just because. So when I press down green, button 2 lights up, so I'm going to bind that to D, And then when I press, I'm going to click off of here because when I did this before, it started binding other things because this edit button was highlighted. So I'm going to click elsewhere, pressing my red button down, that's button 3. That is F. And now when I press yellow, that's button 1. That's J. Blue is button 4. That's K. And then button 5 is my orange. So I'm going to make that L. Then I have to do my select button. That's button 9. That's going to be space. And then if you wanted to, you can add your emote button. I like that on downstrum, so I'm going to make that B, which is the default emote key. And then I want to be able to pause the game. So on my start button, which is button 10, I'm going to add escape as the key binding. And that about does it for a PS3 guitar setup. So to get started setting up your Arduino guitar with Fortnite Festival, open up the Guitar Configurator tool and plug in your Arduino guitar. On the bottom, you have a list of found devices. Select your guitar, and then click Continue. Once you're in, you'll most likely see this graphical view. I prefer the list view, so I'm going to click on the Swap to List View button. But before we do anything in here, go to Change Device Settings, and make sure that they are as I have shown here. Make sure the controller connectivity type is set to Direct. Cue-based inputs can be on or off. It doesn't really make a big difference in this game. The DQ rate can be really anything, but probably keep it low, but not super low. If you're getting some weird behavior, maybe try bumping it up just a tad. I have mine at 3. Seems to be working okay. Button debounce. This is for if your frets are a little bit flickery. When you press them down, it may or may not overstrum. Overtap, I guess, in the game. So I have mine set to 10. That's 10 milliseconds it'll take between button presses for them to start registering. You can bump this up or down depending on what your guitar is like. This just might be something you might want to mess around with. Strum debounce doesn't make a difference in this game because there's no strumming. That was the big one here. Controller output type. Make it output as a keyboard. So select that, and then below that, output it as a Guitar Hero guitar. And then we can go in and map all of our buttons. So for starters, we have to make sure that our guitar is properly bound within the software. Under the pin binding column, go to your fret buttons. I'm going to start with the green fret. Click on it, and then click Automatically Find Pin Binding. And then I'm going to press the green button on my guitar. So now it is bound properly with the device. I'm going to apply changes, and then just go through and do that for every fret. Now go through and bind the pins for every other button on your guitar, just in case you want to use them for a key within the game. Now once that's done, we can go to the key binding section and start binding our buttons to key presses within the game. By default, the fret buttons are bound to D, F, J, K, L within the game. So the green fret is D, so click on that, and then press the D button on your keyboard, and then save it. I already have it bound, so yes, I'd like to replace it with the exact same thing. So now go through and do that for all of the buttons again. Green is D, red is F, yellow is J, blue is K, and orange is L. Another button we should bind is the overdrive activation button, which I have as the select button. So the overdrive is bound to space within the game. So I'm going to change that to space, and then everything else is kind of up to you. There's a bunch of optional things you could do, such as like binding the start button, perhaps, to the escape, so you can open up the settings menu, or maybe binding stuff to the up and down strum, since they're not actually used in the game. You can put things like emotes, which is what I have for my strum down. B is the default emote key, and right now I have strum up to R, which is the ready button when you're in the lobby before a song starts. You can really do whatever you want with this. Just make sure that you have the fret buttons and an overdrive activation button bound, and you should be good to go. For every action that you don't have a key bind for, make sure that it's set to no key, especially your whammy and tilt axes, because those can really mess up how you move around in the game. You don't want that. Only have key bindings for actions that you want to use. Everything else should be not set. Once you have everything bound to your liking, just go down to the right button, and then write these changes to the Arduino device. And then once it's done, you can hop in game and test everything, make sure it works. You do not need to use JoyToKey for this. This is native. You can just hop into the game and it'll work. So now I'm in the lobby. I'm going to go choose a song so we can test all of our key bindings on. Still using my mouse and keyboard to run through the menu here. I'll choose Buttered Barn Hold Down. And then I'm going to press up on my strum bar because that's what I bound R to for me. And yep, that works. If I press down strum, my emote key comes up. And now when the note highway comes up, I'm just going to press every fret just to make sure that they light up corresponding to the correct buttons, and sure enough they do. Now I can play Fortnite festivals with a guitar controller. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. I hope you'll be able to enjoy the game even more than you were before. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'll try to help you if I can, otherwise other commenters may have a solution to your problem too. But other than that, thank you so much again for watching. See ya.